The following is a presentation of the Missouri Sports Network.
At the belt. Checks. Brummer's stealing home. He is safe, and the Cardinals win. Brummer stole home. The dugout comes out, and they congratulate him. You wouldn't.
Hello, everyone. What you just listened to was one of the most famous calls by a Cardinal legend, Mike Shannon, who passed away here in the last couple of days. He'll be missed by all throughout Cardinal Nation and baseball, period. So we wanted to show him respect and a tribute to him as we started off tonight's show. Everyone, you're listening to Huddle Up here on the Missouri Sports Network inside the Pizza Ranch studio. Guy, Mike Shannon was someone that you got a chance to meet. You hung around, having kind of grew up in the St. Louis clubhouse there, Guy. Tell us a little bit about Shannon, if you got any stories for us.
Well, I tell you what, he was fantastic. I grew up with Mike Shannon. I mean, he went to work for the Cardinals. He was a Cardinal for 64 years in some form or fashion. He went to work for the promotional part of the St. Louis Cardinals in 71, 72. He went into the booth with Jack Buck, and he didn't know what he was doing early on. I mean, he was not a broadcaster. He was not trained that way, but I grew up with him. I can remember opening up the window at the time I was 5, 6, 7 years old and turning on the Cardinal games, and just kind of grew up with Mike Shannon. And then, in the early 80s, when my dad was working for Whitey Herzog, I got to spend some time at Busch Stadium before they would open the gates. Would get in there. Joe Buck is a year older than me, and we would get to kind of run around. And probably my favorite Mike Shannon story. Mike Shannon at that time, when you're 11, 12 years old, he is huge. He's a big man, and he's the color of mahogany. I mean, he was so dark complected. And he used to go up, and there used to be up in the AP booth where the media was, there was a sandwich box, and it had like 400 sandwiches in there, ham, turkey, roast beef, and they were individually wrapped. And he'd go in, he'd get like 10 or 12 of those roast beef sandwiches and set them down right in front of his microphone. And Buck and I, one time, he was down doing a dugout show or something. We had wrapped like 4 or 5 of those sandwiches and took the meat off of them and wrapped them back up. And there was an elevator that went from the KMOX booth to the clubhouse, and we'd get on that and ride up and down. And we came back up, an hour after we had done that. The elevator doors open, and there's Mike Shannon standing there with empty pieces of bread in his hand. And he grabbed the two of us, took us into that KMOX booth, and opened up the window and said, "I will blankety blank throw you blankety blanks out this window if you ever screw with my sandwiches again." And I will never forget that. And I loved listening to him. Last time I saw him was 2013 when he came up for the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, and he introduced Tony La Russa when Tony La Russa went in, and he was also given a bronze bust outside the Hall of Fame. That was the last time I saw him. Got to talk to him just a little bit, actually, in the restroom at the Hall of Fame banquet, and just said, "Hey, do you remember?" And he, as soon as I told him the story, he remembered it. And but just a great guy, and will be sadly missed. In St. Louis, he was 83 years old. He had gotten COVID 3 years ago. They put him into a medically induced coma back in 2020, and he just was just never overcame that. Just dealt with the the results of having COVID and never got over it, and passed away. Of course, all of his family was right there around him, and not many people know this, but Mike Shannon may have been the greatest athlete ever to come out of St. Louis. Not only was he a quarterback there at CBC and went on to Mizzou as a quarterback, and he was only at Mizzou a few months because he decided that, MLB, Major League Baseball players were making more money than NFL players. So he decided to go into the Major League Baseball. But, Dan Devine, who was the head coach at Mizzou at that time, said, hey, had he stayed, he may have won 2 Heisman trophies. He was that good of an athlete. He's the only player in the history of the state of Missouri to win both the football player of the year and the baseball player of the year in the same season in the state of Missouri. So he will be sadly missed, and you love that voice, that get up, baby, get up, and I really enjoyed listening to it.
Those are great stories, man. Yeah, he's definitely going to be missed. And with that being said, that's a great segue because I could always get up, baby, get up, get up, get up. There it is. He did it. He did it. The Cardinals went on a walk-off. Yeah, get up, baby, get up. Yeah, you'll never forget those days at KMOX and listen to the radio. And when the Cardinals were winning, wasn't anything better. We used to play a game down there every year. So at my high school in St. Louis County, Brentwood High School, we always played a game down there every year. So we would see him, and I tell you what, he had fun. Let's just say that. I see him after the game sometime, and he had a good time. So he'll be missed. He'll be missed. DA, not really sure if you are familiar with some of his famous calls, but what are your thoughts on the old broadcaster?
Oh yeah, growing up as a kid, we would get KMOX on AM along with WGN, and those were kind of the games that we would get. We would occasionally, if the weather wasn't too bad, we would get some calls out of Cincinnati as well on the AM dial. But yeah, I certainly remember he and Buck calling games together, and what a dynamic duo, and he will be sorely missed. It's kind of funny. I kind of compared him to Harry Carey because you could usually tell what inning the game was in by how bad he was slurring his speech before the FCC stepped in and said you couldn't drink on air. Harry Carey, you could just count the beer cans on the television screen and tell what inning it was in. But with Mike Shannon, when he would start slurring a little bit, it's getting a little later in the game. You wouldn't have to look at the score box to see what inning the game was in. But no, he will be missed, and not only a great player, but great icon of the game.
Both of those two, you just said 2 iconic names, and you say, "A 1, a 2, take me out to." Yeah. Those guys are. That's tradition. That's what makes baseball, a traditionalist sport. It makes people come back to the ballpark because it brings out your youth, and it's a pace in which you can enjoy the pace. You can enjoy the evening, the smell of popcorn. You can hear someone in the faraway section yelling, "Colbert here!" You can hear all those things, and you just feel right at home. But right now, I don't know how much I'm feeling at home when I look at the Cardinals and how they're just not playing good baseball right now. Gentlemen, right now, let's just talk really quick. Guy, the last road trip, what was their record on this last road trip? And tell me, what do you think went wrong? And then DA will let you come in and kind of chime in on the Royals.
Well, they went 2-9 on their West Coast trip. Seattle, San Francisco, and the Dodgers. They're just not hitting. Over that 11-game stretch, I think Arenado hit 118. He's down to 233. They're just not hitting. And then they send Walker down, Jordan Walker, who's second leading, batting average on the team. They send him down to AAA because he's not hitting the ball in the air enough. And, he's hitting too many singles was the explanation. And it just is, it's ridiculous with what's going on. And you go back to the different lineups. I mean, they've had, in 32 games, I think they've had 30 different lineups. And you go back to the 1982 Cardinals, and I went back and looked, 162 games, they only had a different lineup in there 39 times. And it's just ridiculous what Marmol is doing. I think he's in over his head. I think he's a yes man, and that's why he's there and Weishilt's gone.
Yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent. I think he's definitely he's definitely not showing the experience that you had with Schultz had. And I wish we would have gave Schultz another year to see what he could have did with that team last year. But I don't know. I think on the other side of the state, DA, the Royals they're running into their own share of problems.
Be thankful you're not a Royals fan, guys. That's all I can say. They are 7-23. If you look at their top three hitters, Bobby Witt Jr. has a 221 average. Pasquantino, who's a first baseman, he's hitting 275 and quietly having a really good year. And then their leading batter is Salvador Perez, who's an aging catcher, and that's not a good sign when your best batter in your offensive lineup is an aging catcher. But it gets even worse if you take a look at their pitching. Their top four of their top, three of their four top rotation guys. You've got Jordan Lyles, who has a 6.11 ERA. Zach Greinke has a 6.10 ERA. And then Singer is sporting an 8.49 ERA.
You said 8, like 7-8 or
7-8.
Oh, 8. Oh, wow.
8, yes. 8.49. So you go down and it's just their team ERA is 5.68. And when you combine that with a team that can't combine or that cannot produce offensively, it's just a recipe for disaster. Now, granted, there are a lot of injuries going on that team, and there are a lot of young players. But, after the fire sale, after the World Series, they're still struggling to get things put back together.
Well, if we put our records together, will we have a good team? If we put our records together?
You're still not in the playoffs. As of today, you're outside looking in.
Oh, wow. Gentlemen, great segment, guy. Great story. Loved it. A little bit nervous, a little scared that you followed him into the bathroom, maybe. But hey,
was there first?
Hey, whatever, brother. That's on you, my friend. I don't really want to know how y'all end up in the bathroom together. Guy said, "Hey, when y'all tell me, hey, when you see Shannon go to the bathroom, just let me know. All right, I gotta talk to him for a second." But so there it is. Guy Newcomb, great story, DA. Thanks for the Royals update, Guy. Hey, we'll get back into the Cardinals a little bit later if possible. If not, we'll do it next week. Hey, gentlemen, and everyone out there, you've been listening to Huddle Up here on the Missouri Sports Network inside the Pizza Ranch studio. We'll be back with segment 2, talk a little bit about the NFL draft and how it played out last week. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Only Pizza Ranch serves buffet your way.
Don't you mean my way, Mr. Voiceover Guy?
Sure, anyone's way, actually. Request your favorite pizza. We'll make it, bake it, and give you the first slice.
I can add peppers to pepperoni, Stampede on stuffed crust, maybe Texan taco on thin. No tomatoes on my half. How can I convince Mom to let us eat here every night?
It's buffet your way at Pizza Ranch. Say it with me, kid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Huddle Up here in the Pizza Ranch studio here on Missouri Sports Network. I'm with my fellas today. The big fella guy, Coach DA. I'm going to do my best Dylan Brooks impersonation and say that I like to poke bears. And so I'm going to stick you, guy. How'd that sound? Until you can drop 40 on me, guy, I'm going to say one word. You're getting old. I'm going to say a couple words. You're getting old, big fella. You're getting old.
I don't know why I got to be the big fella. I mean, I'm about 40 overweight. That's what when you're talking about drop 40, I need to drop 40 before I'm no longer the big fella.
Well, you're taller than all of us. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You're not the biggest fella, but you're our big fella. Take that as an endearing term, big fella, and just ride with it. Coach, how you feeling over there? You doing all right?
Doing well. Well.
In this segment, we're going to jump into something that happened. I don't really know the numbers here. Tell me if I'm wrong. How do you estimate how many people were there? Kansas City has a population of roughly 350 in the city, 350K. You're telling me that over 1/3 of their population was at Union Station? I think not. But they estimated 125,000 people I just don't understand how that many people. It just didn't look like it. Big fella, the draft was last Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and Kansas City made some decent picks. We're here to talk about and discuss who won the draft, who lost the draft. Guy, what are your thoughts on Kansas City, the crowd, the atmosphere, and how their draft went?
Well, I think the atmosphere was great. I think the crowd was great. You talk about, 125,000 or whatever on Thursday night. I know of 5 people from down here that drove up, and that's just amongst the people that I know. So there's 5 families that drove up, went to be a part of that. And you just look at Kansas City and what they've had over the past 3 or 4 years or 5 years with the AFC championships going through there, the Super Bowl wins. You can go back to 2016, I think, the World Series championship. Now they're going to host the World Cup. They host the NFL draft. I mean, Kansas City, it's kind of the place to be. It's right there in the central part of the United States, Power and Light District. They're maybe building a new stadium. They've got the National Negro Hall of Fame for Negro League Baseball is there. The Missouri State Bears went up and played at that field in a fundraiser deal here earlier this week. And come from behind to beat Omaha, just for the thoughts there. But as far as the Chiefs, they probably got a B plus, maybe A minus in their draft. They go out in the first round. They get the local kid from Lee Summit, played at K State, and that Felix Anudike Ozama as an edge rusher there. They get a big wide receiver in that second round. The kid from SMU, Rasheed Rice. And they were looking maybe to try and maybe trade up in that first round, maybe get a running back early, which I think right now you're wasting a draft pick if you draft especially running back in the first round. But the Chiefs, at all reports, nobody takes a phone call from them. They'll put their phone on mute. We're not trading with that Veach guy. He keeps screwing us, and they keep going to Super Bowls. We're not even going to do it. So they kind of had to stand pat there, and they end up with, I think, 8 picks or 7 picks, in this year's draft. So I think they did okay, and they showed out. They showed the community out. You get Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes show up on opening night, and they got the Lombardi Trophy with them. There must be thousands of those Lombardi trophies. I don't even know if Clark Hunt even knows where the real one is. But I thought overall, Kansas City, the Chiefs, the city, everything went well.
I agree with you. Kansas City has no problem throwing a good party. I can tell you that. They do know how to throw a good party. They have had it going on with the last, 5, 6, 7 years. And they drafted it good. And they got good players and good team, and it's a good atmosphere up there, DA. What are your thoughts on the draft?
Oh, it was really neat to watch it in Kansas City. I think the city did a great job of putting on a great show for the NFL, and very well attended. Probably the best attended draft that I can remember. That's a testament to how well the Chiefs are doing, and the fan base is pretty fired up. And I agree with Guy. I think the Chiefs, they're building toward their future. They're trying to strengthen some areas that on their part may be considered weaknesses, but I think overall there were several teams that really benefited from a very good draft, and there were also some losers. I take a look at what Houston did, which I thought was brilliant early in trading up to get not only C.J. Stroud, but also Will Anderson Jr., who in a lot of mock drafts was the highest rated draft pick. And they need help on both sides of the ball desperately. And those are 2 cornerstones that I think you can build around. And then I think Philadelphia sent a message out to the league and put everybody on notice. With the draft that they had and really shoring up their defense. That is University of Georgia North up there with all of the former Bulldogs that they've drafted over the past 2 years.
Yeah.
They're going to have a national championship proven defense in the NFL. So, those are my 2 winners from the draft this year.
Well, those are 2 good picks as winners. And I tell you what, Kansas City won, NFL won. It's a great showcase. They put on a great. They know how to produce a great show. And then I'm excited. It kind of makes football with the XFL and USFL holding their own. If you look at those games, they're decent games to watch and good talented games. So football is almost becoming a year-round sport, which they kind of wanted to be. They kind of have these little side plots, these subplots with Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets, and you're going, okay, so they keep it into your conscious the whole time. So hey, we're looking forward to it. I said it again. I don't think the Chiefs will win another Super Bowl. I think they had a 5-year cushion. I think they won 2, and I think it's over with. Am I being a hater? Yes, I am, but that's okay. I drank my haterade Kool-Aid, and I'm gonna continue to be a haterade. No, good job, Kansas City. You did good. And if you get that baseball stadium downtown, look out. That might be the new mecca of where to move at here in the Midwest. So with all that being said, gentlemen, thanks for those updates. We're going to just kind of leave it there with that update there and come back with our final and third segment. Just kind of tie some loose ends up, maybe talk a little bit about NBA basketball, local sports teams that we might want to recognize, and then we'll end the show with that. Hey, don't go anywhere. You listen to Huddle Up here on the Missouri Sports Network inside of the Pizza Ranch studio. We'll be right back.
You save it.
No, you buy stuff with it.
I put it in my piggy bank.
You can buy a house.
Save it to buy your car.
Give it to charity for college. Put them in the bank.
Welcome back, everyone, to Huddle Up here on the Missouri Sports Network. I'm still with my fellas here. The big fella who doesn't like his nickname, Big Fella, but I'm sorry, Big Fella. It is what it is. Guy Newcomb over there and Coach DA. I'm Johnny Mack. I'll call myself Big Fella, too, if that make you feel better, guy. Hey, right now it's our third and final segment. We're going to talk a little bit about our favorite Chiefs fan, but maybe there's nothing to talk about. Guy, any new news on Chiefaholic?
No, I still no idea where he is.
Really?
A lot of folks thought he might show up at the draft. I can't imagine he'd be that stupid. I mean, for him to elude the authorities as long as he has at this point, he is not an idiot. So we have no idea where he is.
Well, like I said, I thought I saw him at National and Kearney a couple weeks ago, but maybe I was wrong. But hey, who knows? I thought I saw him at the Walgreens right there, National and Kearney. But hey, like I said, maybe it was just an imposter. Hey, we'll move on from that. I know there's a couple local teams here, baseball-wise, that were doing pretty well, and a district pairing, some district teams that could be Final Four teams, but just won't happen because of the way the districts are set up. DA, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think in Class 5 here in Southwest Missouri, you have Glendale, Camdenton, and Willard, who are all 1, 2, 3, respectively, and they're all in the same district. So something's got to give, and I would love to be a fly on the wall in that district seed meeting. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of finagling going on to try to make sure matchups and looking forward to pitching. How are you going to do your rotation and things like that? Because somebody's going to eat up a good pitcher in a semifinal. Yeah. That's going to eat up a lot of innings and eat up a very good starter before you even get to the championship game. Right. So interesting time ahead. Fort Zumwalt, their school district has 4 schools. 3 of those 4 schools are state ranked in baseball in Class 5 and 6. So it's getting ready to gear up for state play, and that's always a fun time of year. And same way with girls soccer. Throughout the state, a lot of good soccer teams, especially in the Kansas City, St. Louis area, and it's a fun time of year.
Fun times, big fella over there. What are your thoughts on the local scene, guys? A couple teams you want to acknowledge here?
Well, first off, Ash Grove is still undefeated. They're the only undefeated team in the state of Missouri at the baseball level, and they've recently just jumped into the number 1 ranking in the state of Missouri. They're 16-0 on the season. Got a big win over a very good Clever team last week that was 21-1 and ranked in the state in Class 3, and Ash Grove kind of went and handled them a little bit, 8-2. Ash Grove, you can put 3 guys out there at a Class 2 school, put 3 guys out there that are at mid to upper 80s and throw strikes, you're in good shape. And like what DA was talking about with that Glendale, Camden, Willard, that district's all going to be about who gets that 1 seed. I mean, right now Glendale's the number 1 ranked team in the state, but they lost to Camden. So does Camden get the 1 seed? Whoever gets that 1 seed is going to save a pitcher. That 2-3 matchup is going to be crucial. And, you've got to throw your number 1 in that 2-3 matchup, because it doesn't matter if you can't get to the championship game. Doesn't matter who you have, saved. That Ash Grove district, they're in a district with Morrisville, or Marion C. Early, as people around the state know them. But Morrisville's also state ranked, and they're in that same district. And Ash Grove, over the last 3 years, hasn't been able to get by Morrisville. And then in the next round, Morrisville hasn't been able to get by Marionville. Marionville's not a player probably anymore. In Southwest Missouri, it's probably Purdy and Ash Grove, and maybe a Gainesville, which is the way it was last year, where Gainesville went to the Final Four. So it's, and on the soccer side of it, you got a Glendale team that's, state ranked, and, they're number 1.
Yeah.
And, in their classification, you've got Lakeway, who's, that's up the highway a bit. That's, towards St. Louis, but they have been a perennial Final Four team at the smaller levels. And then Springfield Catholic, who you've kind of overlooked maybe in the last 4 or 5 years, but there was a time there where they went to 5 or 6 consecutive Final Four. So, and you got spring softball, which is kind of a newer thing in the state of Missouri. You got a Mount Vernon team who's sitting at 30-1 right now. You got a Diamond team who won the state championship a year ago in spring softball, and Mount Vernon just went down and beat them, I think, 9-2 there. So a lot of great things going on. You've got the track and field is getting ready to go into their district as well. So it's May is by far my favorite month. It always has been as a kid, because I knew we were getting out of school. Baseball was starting up. My birthday's in May. It's just a lot of fun.
I hear you, big fella. Well, thanks for the roundup there. That's a lot of information. That's what we do here on the Missouri Sports Network. We cover it all, and we want to make sure some of those local teams were acknowledged. Guy, tell me a little bit about the leadoff club, how it went last week. I know the last one's coming up with some of the awards, and give us an update on Art Haynes and how's he doing.
First off, on Art, got to visit with him late last week. He's in really good spirits for what he's been through. I mean, you're talking about a guy who hasn't been able to move for 6 or 7 months. The situation he's in would have killed me to not be able to move my arms, my legs, not be able to feed myself. He's kind of coming around. He's getting use of his hands. His son, Chris, has showed him how to use Siri to text so he can do the talks to text. So Coach Rowe at every club meeting the last probably 3 or 4 weeks has encouraged us, hey, send a text message to Art. He's starving for information. So I reached out to him last week. He responded. We got to visit a little bit. Hopefully by the end of this month, or maybe middle of next month, he gets to come back down to Springfield to continue his rehabilitation. Unfortunately, he still has the trachea in, and that's just, a month ago he went through double pneumonia, and they can't keep him free of that pneumonia long enough to be able to remove that trach from his throat. And a lot of that's because he's not able to move, and he's on his back, and that fluid settles in his lungs. He is able to stand up, with obviously a lot of help. But just continue to pray for him. Keep your thoughts and prayers, and we updated every week at the leadoff club. This past week was great. We had all 4 college coaches that were there, and I tell you what, Coach Gutton is well worth the price of admission. Coach Gutton is absolutely hysterical, and Coach Nasby at Drury, same thing, same way. But we'll be able to mix, the Springfield city schools along with some of the area schools. So last week we had a Marshfield, we had a Fair Grove, we had Clever. That was all represented, and Republic, who incidentally got a huge win earlier this week as they beat Nixa. So they're going to, right now, they should have topped the COC at 7-1, tied with who else? Willard, who we just talked about being state ranked. But it's This Monday will be the final leadoff club and the final in a series until we get back to the quarterback club starting off, next August. But this will be the awards banquet. We will pass out the awards for Coach of the Year, Pitcher of the Year, Player of the Year, and MVP for the city schools and the area schools. So there'll be 8 awards given out this Monday, and looking forward to that. And you join us, get there at 11 o'clock. I get there about 10, kind of set up the room a little bit and sit there. And 11 o'clock, the food's out, and you can eat and shoot your. Typically, we're out of there by 12:30 or 12:45. A little bit longer this week with the awards being given out, but I invite everybody to come out and join us at Pizza Ranch at the mall.
Thank you for that update, Guy. DA, anything you got to say as we end this segment here?
Hey, go Cards.
Yeah, I figured you'd say that. Hey, big fella, for everyone here at Missouri Sports Network, it's been good listening to you, but I do got one thing I need to say. Hey, don't follow a grown man into the restroom and give him an old school story. Let him be. All right. Let him be. Hey, you've been listening to Huddle Up here on Missouri Sports Network. We appreciate you all for being here. We'll catch you again next week, next Wednesday. Tune in, and we'll have all the latest updates for the sports here across the state of Missouri. Everyone, take care. Good night.
At the belt. Checks. Brummer stealing home. He is safe, and the Cardinals win. Brummer stole home. The dugout comes out, and they congratulate him. You wouldn't.
This has been a presentation of the Missouri Sports Network. Thank you for tuning in.